Hello, I'm James Lawson from Macquarie University, and this is the instructional video for the SoSSS Site Selector tool. SoSSS Site Selector, Planning for Climate Change and Threatened Species Conservation. Developed for the New South Wales Office of Environment and Heritage Saving Our Species program. In New South Wales Saving Our Species program, species listed as threatened are classified into one of several management streams. Species in the Site Managed stream are given a conservation plan which identifies sites where management should be done to ensure the long-term persistence of the species. So far, this site selection process hasn't explicitly considered whether these sites will be suitable under future climates, or to what extent management sites represent all the environments where the species occurs. These two factors are thought to be important determinants of species' capacity to adapt to climate change. Professor Michelle Leishman's research team at Macquarie University has created a tool to help Saving Our Species decision makers plan for climate change when choosing management sites. SoSSS Site Selector is a web browser-based tool designed to be used interactively by SoSSS decision makers who are considering management sites for threatened species. Using this decision support tool, the Saving Our Species team can combine the best information from threatened species experts with easy, interactive access to modern climate change predictions and environmental data. In this video, we will learn how SoSSS Site Selector can be used to guide the site selection process for threatened species conservation. So let's get started. First, we'll need to load some occurrence data, information about the coordinates where a species of interest has been sited. The data file should be a CSV, comma-separated values file, and it needs to have columns for latitude, longitude, and the species name. Site Selector will try and automatically find these columns, but if they're called something strange, the user needs to select them manually using these selector boxes. Once we've loaded the data, we'll see a map showing the distribution of the species. We can pan and zoom using the mouse in the same way as you would do with Google Maps. The pink points represent species observations. We can click them for more information about the record. The orange blocks represent locations where the species is present. They're based on 1 kilometre area of occupancy grid cells. To find these locations, we lay a 1 kilometre grid across New South Wales. Grid cells which contain observations are denoted as occupied. Locations are defined here as connected groups of grid cells. There are plenty of other definitions of what a location is in conservation planning, but don't worry, we can change this later. The red polygons represent current Saving Our Species management sites, if there are any. We can switch the map between satellite photography and OpenStreetMap. OpenStreetMap is particularly useful for showing protected areas, waterways, and urban areas. Once we've checked out our occurrence data on the map, we can move on to the next step. Note that most buttons have helpful tooltips. Try mousing over a button for more information. Click here to load environmental data and select candidate locations. Okay, let's do that. This step is where most of the action happens. Not all of the locations where the species occurs will be suitable management sites, and the goal here is to whittle down the locations to just those which are suitable. When we're done, the site selector will select a set of locations which together form an optimal location network. These sites will have the most suitable climates in 2070 and represent as much of the environments where the species occurs as possible. Let's take a quick aside to talk more about how Site Selector determines this optimal site network. Each of the locations fed into the Site Selector algorithm is scored according to the following parameters: 2070 climate suitability, location area, and protected area status. Then every possible combination of these locations is scored according to its average 2070 climate suitability, the average stability of the location, which is calculated using the area of location and the protected area status, and representation of the species' environmental niche. Finally, each combination is given a score and ranked based on its suitability, representation, and stability. The optimal site network is the first ranked combination, but other highly ranked combinations may also be of interest. By default, Site Selector only considers locations that are predicted to still be climatically suitable in 2070. These sites will have the most suitable climates in 2070 and represent as much of the environments where the species occurs as possible. Where possible, climate suitability is determined using the future climate suitability models produced for SOS site managed species by John Baumgartner and Linda Beaumont at Macquarie University. These are based on the NACLIM climate change projections for southeastern Australia. These models aren't available for species with less than 20 occurrence records, and in these cases, locations are considered to be climate suitable if their climates are within the range of climates where the species is currently known to occur. Let's look at the map display in the main panel. The app uses this panel to show the user which locations are predicted to be climate suitable in 2070. We're told that a future climate suitability model is available for our test species, Acacia bakeri, and that none of the current SOS management sites are predicted to be climate suitable in 2070. But 14 other potential locations are predicted to be climate suitable in 2070. Suitable locations are highlighted in light blue, and current SOS sites are again shown in red. Unless they're climate suitable, then they'll be light blue. If 14 locations are suitable, and we want to pick a set of 5, there are 2002 unique sets to choose from. More detailed environmental information about future climate suitability across the species distribution is available in the Climate Suitability Summary tab. We can find information in this tab about how suitable the current SOS management sites are predicted to be compared with the species' current environmental niche. The Climate Suitability Details tab shows similar information, but for every area of occupancy grid cell where the species occurs. If we're happy with the default set of suitable locations selected by the app, we can hit Run Site Selector, and the app will tell us which 5 of those 14 locations form the optimal site network. However, there's a lot more we can do at this step to customize how Site Selector's algorithm works. Using Site Selector's control panel. The first thing we can do in the control panel is choose how many locations the Site Selector algorithm will select. The default is 5. Note that increasing this number increases the number of possible combinations, which means the output takes longer to compute. By default, Site Selector's algorithm considers locations currently within protected areas to be more stable than those which are not, making these locations more likely to be selected as part of the optimal site network. Depending on a species' individual situation, this may not be appropriate, so this default setting can be toggled off by selecting No. If current SOS management sites are not predicted to be climate suitable, but we would still like the algorithm to consider them, we can select the As Candidates Regardless of Suitability option of the Include Current SOS Sites menu. Alternatively, we can ask the algorithm to select current SOS management sites in the optimal site network using the As Selected Locations option of the Include Current SOS Sites menu. This is useful if we would like to add additional management locations to the current SOS site network, or simply review the environmental characteristics of current SOS sites. We can do the same thing with any location of interest using the Include Highlighted Locations selector. This is useful if there are locations which may not be climatically suitable in 2070, but which we have a good reason to include in the optimal site network. Perhaps they are strong populations which may be useful sources for translocations in the future. To use these functions, we need to use the interactive location map to highlight locations. Let's see how that's done. Once we've highlighted some locations, we can tell the app we want them included as candidates regardless of suitability or as selected locations. We can also alter the locations themselves. Sometimes management sites need to cover wide areas, in which case Site Selector's definition of a location, any set of adjoining occupied grid cells, will be too conservative. To aggregate locations into a single larger location, highlight the locations of interest and click Aggregate Highlighted Locations. If some locations are inappropriate for consideration as management sites, for example, they may be an inaccessible wilderness or too close to a heavily urbanized area, we can remove them. Highlight the location of interest and click Remove Highlighted Locations. Finally, we may wish to designate some locations as priority populations. We can use this function to tell the algorithm that these locations are more important to a species' survival than others. For example, a location might contain a genetically unique population or represent a key area of habitat. To do this, highlight the location of interest and click Set Highlighted Locations as Priority Populations. Once we've made our choices about the candidate locations we'd like the app to consider, we can run the site selector. This can take some time, depending on how many locations we've chosen to select and how many locations were designated as suitable candidates. Site Selector's algorithm has finished running. Let's take a look at the output. At the top of the screen, we are able to choose location network to view. The default is 1, and its site network score is also 1. We can actually view every combination of locations that the algorithm searched through, but by default we're shown only the most optimal combination. The site network score is a relative score and tells us how optimal a given site network is relative to the best ranked combination, which is always given a site network score of 1. The locations that Site Selector has chosen as the best ranked location network are shown in green on the map. To reiterate, this is the combination of locations that A. Are the most suitable under the predicted 2070 climate, B. Are the most representative of the species' environmental niche, C. Have the largest location patch sizes, and D. Are within protected areas if the default option in the control panel is left switched on. There are several other tabs which each show us some different information about the location networks chosen by the algorithm. These plots show us how the species is distributed across 10 gradients of important climate and soil conditions. The higher the peak in the plot, the more area of occupancy grid cells have that value. The grey filled curves show the current climate, and the orange filled curves show the predicted climate in 2070. The red squares show the predicted climate for SOS management sites in 2070, and the green squares show the predicted climate for locations selected by the algorithm. Where markers do not overlap with the current grade distribution, those sites are likely to be climate unsuitable in 2070. The Environmental Summary tab gives a summary of environmental information, present day and 2070 climate, for each of the area of occupancy grid cells included in the selected location network. Finally, the Algorithm Performance tab provides some statistics and diagnostics describing how good a job the site selection algorithm did. We won't discuss these outputs in this video, but a description is available at the bottom of the screen. Once we've selected a site network we're happy with, we can download a full report containing maps of the locations selected and all of the associated tables and graphs. This is the end of the instructional video for SoSSS Site Selector. Please direct any inquiries, feedback or requests to help to James Lawson at Macquarie University.